Hey guys, how's it going? Today let's look at the Google Pixelbook and my impressions of it and Chrome OS so far. And yes, I know this computer came out all the way back in 2017, and I finally got a chance to look at this now for a few reasons. First reason is I was looking for a laptop that's very light, portable, slim, and good for like media consumption, just light things like browsing the web, social media, watching YouTube, things like that. So, I mean, Windows laptop obviously would be fine as well, but I was looking for, a cheaper laptop. So that's where the Chrome OS came into the equation. So second reason is I've never actually used Chrome OS before, so I wanted to get my impressions of Chrome OS to see how well will it do, how well will it function as an actual computer, right? So lots of people have some reservations about Chrome OS, about whether or not it can actually replace the desktop OS. Kind of wanted to get my thoughts on that. And thirdly, this laptop is very heavily discounted. It was $1,000 when it first came out. Actually, Google's still selling it on their website for $1,000 for whatever reason. I have no idea because they haven't updated it at all. It's still running a 7th gen Intel processor, so I have no idea why they're still selling it. But anyway, it's still on their website for $1,000, but it's been heavily discounted on eBay, and you can find it refurbished or open box for about half that price. So you can find it for about $500. And I think at $500, it's actually a pretty decent pickup. That's still more expensive than a lot of Chromebooks, I know. But the design and the specs on this is actually pretty good for a Chromebook. So let's take a look at it so far. First of all, you notice that this design is the Pixel design, right? So this is my Google Pixel 2, right? And you can see that the design matches pretty well. I mean, this actually came out in the same year, 2017, right? So it has that top half glass kind of texture with it. With the G logo, right? The Google logo. And yeah, I'd say that it matches pretty well with my Pixel 2. And I think you can actually log into the computer using your Pixel 2 or your Pixel device, right? If you have a Pixel 3 or 4, that will also work. So yeah, just the design aesthetic is, yeah, it's Google's Pixel design aesthetic, which I like. Like it's a pretty nice aesthetic, I'd say. It's pretty unique. Having this top half be this kind of glassy texture. I don't think many other laptop manufacturers or phone manufacturers do something like that. And this is solid aluminum, I believe, and it's actually pretty light. So this weighs 2.4 pounds according to Google's website. 2.4 pounds would put it amongst the lightest laptops pretty much that you can get today. I think the lightest laptop, well, depends on what you define as a laptop, of course, because these days there's so many hybrids. But let's just call a laptop a computer with a permanent keyboard attached, right? So this would put it amongst the lightest laptops in the market today. Yeah, the only lighter convertible I can think of is the HP Dragonfly Elite, and that's 2.3 pounds, so it's only lighter by a little bit, and it's way more expensive. It's like 3 times the price of this one. So yeah, that's obviously in a different price range. There's also the Vaio SX12, which weighs about 2 pounds, but that's not a convertible, so it doesn't exactly compete in the same space. The Pixelbook is one of the thinnest and lightest convertibles that you can get on the market today. You can see just how thin it is. Like, this is extremely thin. Just to give you a comparison, again, this is my Google Pixel, right? It's my Pixel 2, and you can see it is barely thicker than my phone, right? It is barely thicker than my phone. So that gives you an idea of how thin this laptop is. So it's extremely light, extremely thin, and portable. Let's go over the ports. There is a USB-C port. I don't think this is Thunderbolt. It's just USB-C, headphone jack, a volume rocker right here, power button, nothing over here. And here, just another charging port, another USB-C port. And that's it. So it is definitely pretty light on ports. It's going the MacBook route. So thanks, Apple, for creating that kind of trend. But yeah, 2.4 pounds, it's definitely lighter than any MacBook out there, even the MacBook Air. So yeah, this is definitely one of the slimmest, lightest laptops that you can get on the market right now, especially for a convertible. Like I said, the only convertible that I think is lighter is the HP Dragonfly Elite, which is way out of this price range. And that's pretty much it. And if you just want laptops in general, which are lighter, there's not a lot either. Maybe the Vaio SX12, and like I said, not really competing directly with this. The Fujitsu, but those are also really expensive and limited availability in America. So there's only a few other laptops I can think of that are about as light as this, and very few of them are convertible. Yeah, I bought this refurbished, so that's why there's still a kind of a quality control checking sticker on this. Yeah, so this feels like holding a Pixel laptop. See, like the Pixel phone, right? This feels exactly like holding a Pixel laptop, which is really kind of interesting. And there's this rubber kind of grip on this, only this half here. So that's kind of interesting. All right, and this computer will actually boot up once you lift up the lid, and it's not exactly one-handed. And backlit keyboard, of course. So this keyboard is pretty unique because it is Chrome OS, so it lacks a lot of the Windows specific features on it. Have to talk about this palm rest as well. This is some kind of rubber silicone material, which is the same on the back here, and it does not extend to the rest of the back, as you can see, and it only extends to this palm rest. Does not extend here either. So what I can say is it's pretty nice material though. It's nice feeling silicone. This is a glass trackpad, it looks like, and I really love this trackpad. It's a really nice trackpad, very nice texture. It is, yeah, it feels just like putting your hand on glass. I mean, it is pretty nice. Okay, so let's look at Chrome OS. All right, what's my impressions of Chrome OS? So I'm gonna flip this. Of course, this is a 360-degree convertible here. So I can flip it like that. Has that hinge, that yoga hinge that every convertible now has. And then this is the stand mode right here. So the thing about Chrome OS is very, very similar to Android. It's almost like Android for laptops. But Google has said that they want to keep the two operating systems separate, the Android and Chrome OS separate, although I think they're very similar to each other. So the unique thing about Chrome OS, I would say, is that it seems like a very light operating system. Now, I don't know exactly what's going on under the hood or how they coded this operating system, but it seems very light to me as a user, right? Because when you use Windows, when you use Mac OS, or even Linux, right, there's a lot of layers to go through, right? There's a lot of things going on in the operating system, and Chrome OS just seems very simple, right? And all it is you connect to the internet, and you have to be connected to the internet to really use this operating system. And all your web apps are there, right? So basically, this is based off of the premise that we're living in a very connected world. So this is very Internet of Things, right? That's what Google is going for, the cloud computing trend, right? Everything is done online in the web, so why not just make a complete operating system out of it? So if you can do everything online using web apps, then basically that's what the Chrome OS is built upon, right? It's built upon the perception that we're moving to that kind of paradigm now. We no longer really need desktop software anymore. So really, desktop software, the only desktop software I regularly use is like a video editor and programming editor when I'm programming, games. Obviously, those are about the major things that I use, right? The major desktop software, video player, music player, obviously as well. But there's not a whole lot of there's not a whole lot of desktop software that you would use these days compared to before. So most of your time you would spend on the web, and if you're that kind of person, then Chrome OS is definitely going to be really suitable for you, right? Because that's mostly what it does. It doesn't really have any true desktop software on it. This is all, so you can install web apps, right, which are basically shortcuts to the website, like this YouTube, Google Drive, Google Keep. Okay, so you see everything with a little Chrome icon here. These are all web apps. So once you click them, it just launches Chrome and it takes you into that website. And that's all it does. It's not a separate app really at all. It's just a shortcut, right? It's almost like a bookmark, right? It's like a bookmark for a certain app or website you want to use on the web. And then you can install Android apps on this as well, which makes this sort of like a giant Android tablet, really. So another thing to be aware of is things might get confusing if you have the exact same Android app installed. So for example, if you have Google Drive, the web app installed, and you also have Google Drive, the Android app installed, and they both have the exact same icon, it might be a little bit confusing about which one to launch. But for me, generally, I just do it this way. If an app has a web launcher, I usually go with a web launcher. I usually go to Chrome to use it. I don't really use the Android app. Only if I don't have a website version of the app, then I install the native Android app. So that's how I usually go about it, but just something to keep in mind. So you might have heard, Android tablets have died off. The iPad killed them all off. Well, basically Chromebooks are Android tablets, right? They're giant Android tablets because you can run all your Android apps on them, and I installed a few. So that's what I want to go through today, is to show you guys my impressions of Chrome OS. I have not really owned a Chrome OS device before, and I want to see how well it would do, right? Because I just want to use this for media consumption and light stuff. I'm not doing any heavy stuff with this laptop. So how well does Chrome OS fare for that? And I would say it fares about as well as my iPad Pro. And that's another comparison I want to do, because I feel like the Pixelbook is basically just a giant Android tablet that's convertible, right? That has an attached keyboard, in my opinion. So that would be a good comparison to do, because iPad OS and Chrome OS, both of these operating systems, considered by most people not to be a full desktop operating system. But are they good enough for 90% of the stuff that we do? So that's why I want to do this comparison as well. First of all, get my impressions on Chrome OS though. So actually about this display first. I really like this display. It's a 3:2 aspect ratio display, IPS of course, and colors look really good. I don't like the big bezels around here, but I mean, this is from 2017, so I guess it can get kind of a pass for that. I mean, by starting from 2018, I think this would not be acceptable anymore. But the 3:2 aspect ratio display is really good, though. Not a lot of laptops have it. I think only the Microsoft Surface Book, Surface laptops, and the Pixelbook has it. I really like this aspect ratio because it's a good in-between the 4:3 aspect ratio that a lot of people like for viewing vertical content and reading, and the 16:9 aspect ratio that people like for watching movies and viewing media. So I think the 3:2 is the perfect in-between for that, and I really wish other manufacturers would go the 3:2 route. But unfortunately, I think so far it's only been Microsoft and Google. But let me know if there's anyone else doing the 3:2 displays. I really do think this is a unique feature of the Pixelbook as well. So yeah, this desktop here, I don't like it. The reason I don't like it is because you can't put anything on it. All it is a wallpaper, and I know, like, okay, well, it's a beautiful wallpaper and you don't want to clutter it up. But for me, like, if I use a Windows laptop, any Windows machine actually, or even an Android or iOS device, I want to put stuff on my desktop, shortcuts and stuff, right? And in Chrome OS, you can't do that. You can only put your shortcuts on the launcher here. Now, that's really restricting, because what's all this space for then? Like, it's just for the wallpaper? I mean, I know it's a nice wallpaper, but at least give us the option to put shortcuts on the desktop here. So that's a one limitation I don't like about Chrome OS. They should let us put shortcuts on the desktop. I feel like this is very limiting, only restricting us to the launcher. And of course, you have all your apps here, but you had to pull up from the bottom. And then you got to scroll down to search for your apps, right? So imagine on your Android phone or your iPhone or iPad, if you can't put your apps on the desktop, right? That would be very annoying, because I usually launch my applications from the desktop. I do this on Windows, I do this on my iPad, on my iPhone, on my Android devices. Basically every device I have, I almost always use the desktop for shortcuts. And for some reason, Chrome OS doesn't let you do that. So that's my first complaint here, I guess. I don't know why. I think Google should at least give you the option of putting some shortcuts on here, because this is just wasted space, right? You can't do anything on this space right here. And then let me go over the functions here. For those of you who don't know Chrome OS, this is basically going to be a tour of Chrome OS as well. There is a key here. This key looks like that Windows context menu button key, but once you press it, it brings up a bunch of the Chrome options here. So this is the similar options actually that you would find on an Android phone if you swipe down from the top. So you have your Wi-Fi, Bluetooth notifications, you can adjust your volume. Go to your Chrome settings here. That will actually open up your Chrome browser. But yeah, that's basically what this key does here. It brings up this menu to adjust your settings. So it's very similar menu to an Android phone when you pull down from the top. Then you have specific buttons here. Let You guys can see this better. This button is to go back in the browser. This is to refresh the page. Very, very browser specific buttons. This one is to enlarge the app that you're using. It's very similar to that feature in macOS where you click maximize and it takes up the entire screen. So this basically, like, for example, if I want to go to the Play Store, then I press this button, then it's just going to make it full screen. So basically it's just a full screen button. And then this button here is similar to that button on Android where you can multitask between different windows, different apps, right? So this is very similar to that same button in Android, right? You just go between different apps there. It's an app switcher. This is the brightness, right? You can adjust your brightness there. This is play, pause. This is mute. And of course, the volume up and down here as well. This looks like a caps lock key. Is where the caps lock button usually is, but it's not caps lock. Once you press it, it brings up a Google search. So it's not actually caps lock, even though it's in the same position as a caps lock key. Brings up a Google search, and then you can type in whatever to search for. And of course, when you swipe down from the bottom, this is a touch screen, of course. So you swipe down from the bottom, this brings up your apps that you've installed, web apps and Android apps that you've installed, very similar to what you would get on an Android phone. So it's that, and there is this button here, which is where the Windows shortcut key would be, right? So on Windows laptops, this would be the Windows icon. You can open up the start menu. On the Chrome OS, what this does is open up Google Assistant, right? So then you could type something in to ask Google Assistant. It doesn't actually activate the voice, so you actually have to manually click the voice if you want voice input. So anyways, yeah, this is a Google Assistant button. So that's a quick shortcut right there. And the rest of the keyboard is the same, so nothing else to talk about. Those are the special buttons I just wanted to draw your attention to. All right, I also wanted to give you guys my thoughts on this keyboard here. Given the fact that this device is so slim and light, this keyboard is actually okay. Obviously, it's not going to give you too much travel, so don't expect, really good keyboard or something like that. You have to consider the fact that this is such a slim and light laptop. So they did fit a decent keyboard in here. It's not like the old MacBook Pro keyboard, the last gen MacBook Pro keyboard with the butterfly switches. It's not that bad. Okay, those keyboards were the worst, right? They had almost no travel. But this keyboard it's okay. The travel is there. It's not that much, but it's definitely better than a butterfly keyboard. So that's all I'm going to say about that. It's okay. So yeah. So let's do this comparison here. I got the Pixelbook and I got my iPad Pro 10.5 here, also from the same year, 2017. All right, so you might be wondering why you're comparing the iPad with the Pixelbook. Well, I think this is actually a pretty good comparison because Chrome OS and iPad OS, both of these operating systems are not full-fledged desktop operating systems. They're not meant to replace your main computer or your main desktop. They're just meant as sort of lighter operating systems designed to give you maybe 90% of what you do. So like if you're just consuming content, right? If you're browsing the web or doing social media, or maybe you want to play a mobile game, then these operating systems are that's what they're meant for, right? So iPad OS, obviously derived from iOS, and Chrome OS actually derived from Linux, right? So both of these have, I would say they both have their pros and cons, but they're more similar than you might think, right? I know the iPad is actually more expensive usually than Chromebooks, but the newer Chromebooks, like the Pixelbook, came out at $1,000, and the new Samsung Galaxy Chromebook, which has a 4K OLED display, is also $1,000. So Chromebooks can be expensive if you're paying for the premium ones. So this CPU is actually it's one of those Core M5 processors because it doesn't have a fan. It's totally fanless, right? So it's running like a 7-watt CPU. I think it's 7Y75. Sorry, yeah, that's the CPU inside this Pixelbook. And the newer Galaxy Chromebooks have a full-fledged Core i5 ultra-low voltage processor. This one's 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gig SSD, so that's standard laptop specs. So I would say that the more premium Chromebooks are getting up there in price. Now the iPad Pros, especially the 12.9 inch ones. I know this is 10.5 inch, so don't think about the displays. It's not really comparable. I'm thinking about the 12.9 inch iPad Pro with the new keyboard that has the touchpad, right? The trackpad. That's trying to be like basically trying to replace a travel computer, right? So Apple is advertising the iPad Pro as replacing a travel computer. So essentially, like Chromebooks are basically giant Android phones, and then the iPad, I guess you can think of it as a giant iPhone. So that's kind of the point of similarity I want to get across here. After using Chrome OS for a few days, my impressions with it is that it's very, very similar to the way that you would use an iPad. In the fact that if you want to do just media consumption, if you want to just watch videos, watch movies, use social media, read news, right, browse websites, maybe read an ebook or whatever. For all those light things, the Chrome OS is just as good as iPad OS for that. Even if you want to do mobile games, right? Of course, this runs Android apps, so you can run any Android game on it as well. So mobile games, of course, these are both technically. This is a mobile operating system, and this is similar to a mobile operating system in usage. So yeah, I would say think of this as using a giant Android device, a giant Android phone or tablet, and then obviously people already know about the iPad. It is basically just a giant iPhone. The differences are okay. So say you want to do like some pro editing, and you want to do like Photoshop, and you want to do Premiere, or you want to do Final Cut Pro programming or running a VM, Logic Pro X, like any of those things, neither of these are good. Okay, just get a laptop with running Windows or Mac OS or a desktop. That's going to be better for you. But if you had to do those things out of these two, I would pick the iPad, because the iPad actually has better support for those things. So there is actually more support for movie editors, video editors, audio editors on the iPad than Chrome OS and Android so far. And I'm saying Chrome OS and Android is kind of the same thing, because Chrome OS can run Android. So by extension, I'm saying Android here as well. So if you're doing any kind of that professional type stuff, neither of these computers are good for it. But if I had to pick one, I would pick the iPad, because I feel like the iPad has better app support for that. It has more of these professional type apps, whereas Chrome OS and Android are kind of lacking when it comes to that. So I think that's where the iPad would win here. Is I feel like the app quality, just like this is just a general iOS over Android thing, I feel like the app selection in the Apple Store is better quality than that of Android. So there is a lot of devices out there, accessories for like music and like microphones. I'm saying this as a musician. If you want to do a recording or something like that, there's actually quite a few like DAW apps for the iPad, right? There's a few good video editors. The iMovie editor is decent. And there's a few other productivity tools that you can use here. And there's also the mobile Photoshop as well. So I feel like iPad has better support in that area. So if you had to choose one for that creativity stuff, I think I would go with the iPad. If you want to do programming, neither of these is good, okay? Because neither of them are going to run Xcode or VS Code. So you have to use an actual laptop running Windows or Mac OS for that. Or Linux, right? Linux is good for programming too. But yeah, as far as creativity stuff is concerned, I would pick the iPad. So you might be wondering, what do I like about Chrome OS then? Chrome OS has the same advantages Android has over iOS, in that it's more open and it has more of a variety of apps, right, that maybe iOS won't allow in their app store. So for example, like emulators, right, that's a good example. So Apple doesn't really have any good emulators in their app store, right? But here, for example, I can run this emulator. So this is a Super Nintendo emulator right here. I can bind all the keys to the keyboard shortcuts here, right? So let's say I load a game like Super Mario World. Okay. And yeah, the keys all work. I just map all the keys to the keyboard shortcuts here, right? So everything works here. So you can run emulators and ROMs on Chrome OS. Yeah, this is something you can't really do on the iPad, right? So that's like one example, right? So basically, this is an advantage of Android over iOS, right? Because the Google Play Store is more open. But yeah, you have that advantage of being able to have a more variety of apps on the App Store for Chrome OS. Actually, any shady things you want to do, like torrenting or using emulator or ROMs, I think Android or Chrome OS is a better bet than iOS for those things. So I say overall, even though iOS has better quality apps, the Google Play Store has more variety. And this is just a general Android versus iOS thing. They both have pros and cons in that area. Apple App Store versus Google Play Store. So basically the TLDR of iPad OS versus Chrome OS is that it's basically the same arguments as iOS versus Android, right? So Android is more open. They have more variety in apps, but somewhat, I would say, lacking quality. Whereas the iOS App Store has better quality apps, but maybe lacking in the variety, and it's more closed off. So basically, yeah, if you like the iPhone, you're going to like the iPad. If you like Android, you're going to like Chrome OS, is what I'm saying. And I know that might seem like a foregone conclusion, but I would say for both of these machines, right, if you're using both iPad or using Pixelbook or Chromebook, they're both really good just for light media consumption, for traveling with. This is about 2.3 pounds with the keyboard attached. This is a bridge keyboard, by the way. But the Apple keyboard is probably going to be similar weight. Pixelbook, again, very similar weight, 2.3, 2.4 pounds. So very similar weight. And if you get the 12.3, 12.9 version of the iPad Pro, it's also going to be very similar size to the Pixelbook as well. So they're going to be roughly similar size, similar weight. They're both really good for media consumption, for web surfing, for social media, all those things. Not really good for any heavier stuff, but I would say they're pretty comparable in that sense, right? Both Chrome OS and iPad OS are basically pseudo desktop operating systems. They're mobile operating systems trying to masquerade as a desktop operating system, right? That's been my experience with both, because I own both the iPad Pro and the Pixelbook, right? I'm not telling you guys. They're basically mobile operating systems that's trying to be a desktop operating system. So you're never going to get the full desktop experience. You can probably do 90% of your stuff on it, is what I'm saying. And it's all going to come down to whether you prefer iOS or Android, right? There's no real clear winner over this. I will say that the Pixelbook is a pretty good deal right now. It's $500, so that's half price from when it first launched. And I really like the design. I think the design is better than pretty much any other Chromebook out there, except for maybe the Galaxy Chromebook, but that one has battery issues. So I did a lot of research when I was thinking about getting another 2-in-1, because I already have my Porsche Design Book 1, right? That one is a little bit too heavy, so I don't really want to bring that one. So I was checking out a few options. There's, of course, the HP Spectre X360, which I did a review on already. It's a really great laptop. I would say that if you're just looking for one portable laptop to do everything, the HP Spectre X360 is really good. It has a 4K AMOLED display, has the USB-A ports, a micro SD. It's pretty light, pretty portable. It looks really great. Runs Windows, of course. So I would say if you just want to pick one laptop, you can pick that one. But for me, the Spectre X360 is still a little bit too expensive, even though I know it's a good value for that price compared to other 4K OLED laptops. That one's a good value, good price. But I still wanted to find something cheaper and lighter, right? And the Dell XPS 13 2-in-1, again, too expensive and too heavy. Then I looked at the Samsung Galaxy Chromebook, which has battery issues, and it's also $1,000, which is double the price of what I can get this one for now. Then there's a Samsung Galaxy Book Flex, which is a new one that just came out with a QLED display. That one has really good battery life, but it's also 3 times the price of this. So it's really expensive as well. But that one's pretty light, and if that one came down in price, I would think about getting the Galaxy Book Flex. And also the HP Dragonfly Elite, which I already mentioned before. That one is the only other convertible which I know of that is lighter than this one. And that one is just way too expensive. It's at least 3 times the price of this. Although I do like it, if it came down in price, it would be good. But for now, that's also way too expensive. And this is the only two-in-one I could find that has both the price and the features that I wanted. Besides the fact that it's running Chrome OS, I didn't really see anything that I didn't like about this, right? I mean, it doesn't have a micro SD card slot, but that's fine because I can just use a USB-C thumb drive, right, to watch my movies on. It doesn't have a USB-A port, but that's okay too because this is mainly going to be used for traveling. And I don't think of bringing any, like I said, if I have any USB flash drives, I'll just use a USB-C flash drive. So I don't feel the need for USB-A. I guess if I want to use a mouse, but I'm not really doing much gaming on this either. So yeah, I think the lack of a USB-A port didn't bother me that much. I mean, this is probably going to be replacing my iPad Pro. And my iPad Pro obviously doesn't have any USB-A ports or micro SD card slots, and I didn't really care too much about that, right? And it is bigger, but it weighs about the same as the iPad Pro with the keyboard attached. What else? The 3.2 display. I like the 3.2 display a lot, and this is a feature that pretty much no other laptop besides Microsoft has. So that's a pretty unique feature as well. Yeah, I can't really think of any other things I don't really like about it. Just, I guess it doesn't have as many ports, and the bezels could be smaller, and it runs Chrome OS. And I guess many people would prefer that it runs Windows, but for me, it's a unique experience to try this operating system out to see what it's like. And to me, yeah, it's basically like a giant Android tablet, which is fine. You know, if this is going to be replacing my iPad Pro, then having a giant Android tablet is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And of course, being able to play games on this is cool too, like mobile games. You can't really play desktop games on this unless you do, some streaming with the NVIDIA Game Stream or something like that. Maybe you can, but otherwise, I think you can just play mobile games on this, like Vice City. Let's try Vice City. So again, I think this maps to the keyboard already. Yep. So resume game. So I think it uses the 1, 2, 3, 4 buttons to do stuff here. Come on.
Should have stayed at home today.
All right, and to jack a car, and let's go. There we go. Playing Vice City on a Chromebook. So yeah, you can definitely play mobile games on this thing, no problem. Oh. Let me change your angles here. Alright. So yeah, completely fanless, of course. It's running the M5 processor. Has a lot of storage. I got the one with the 256 gigs, so I can put a lot of movies and stuff on it. Right, so say I want to watch a video. This is how the experience would look. It's a 3:2 aspect ratio display, so there's going to be some letterboxing. So go to YouTube and okay, let's watch IGN. So yeah, to open this, you're going to see black bars on the top and bottom because of 3:2 aspect ratio. But if you're okay with that, then this is a good video viewing experience if you're okay with that.
These next couple of months are going to be a solid month for stream.
Right. So, like viewing videos on this display is pretty good. And if I want to view my movies, I can just use my USB-C thumb drive here. Just plug in. Then Chrome OS will detect it, and then I can watch it probably from the Files app as well, but I'm going to use VLC, and VLC detects it, and a lot of angry video game nerd out here. Let's see. Okay, let's go to Shanghai Kiss, right? And again, you flip I put this in presentation mode because this is usually how I watch my movies. And yeah, it's a good movie viewing experience. It's basically, yeah, just like I said, like a giant Android tablet. So of course you have the letterboxing, but otherwise it's fine. All right. This is a very underrated movie, by the way. All right, so that would be a few movies on this thing, and then of course you want to listen to music. You can put music players on here, Spotify, whatever. But yeah, overall, I find that the Pixelbook is a pretty good device for me to replace my iPad Pro as just a light traveling computer, right? I'm not looking to do any heavy desktop work on this thing. I'm just looking to consume media content, maybe write a blog or two, look at some YouTube videos, go on social media, post on Facebook or Instagram. So I'm thinking about just bringing this as just a light travel companion. Say I'm on a plane or something like that, or I'm just on the bed and I don't want to carry something really heavy, right? This is really light, just like my iPad Pro, except this is a bigger device, and I think it's pretty good. And I can always carry a full-fledged, real laptop with me as well, running like Mac OS or Windows with me as well. Those will probably be like heavier, more battery intensive applications, and those are not going to be as portable as this. So I feel like the iPad and the Chromebook or the Pixelbook, they fulfill a different need, which is people who really want just a really light, portable computer just to do light stuff on, right? Just to consume content. And the battery life is also better because of that, right? Because you're not doing any heavy work, not heavy gaming or anything like that. And that's it, guys. That is the Google Pixelbook. I think it's going to be a nice travel companion, a nice secondary computer to have. Not a main computer, but a secondary computer to have. And I find it's probably the best value right now for me as a 2-in-1 convertible, being this light and costing about $500. I can't really find any other convertible that's as good. But yeah, if any of you guys know a convertible that's as slim, as light, and under $500, then keep me posted. But so far, I think the Pixelbook has been the best option for me. And that's it. This is the iPad Pro. Now, if I had the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, then I might think about just bringing that one. But yeah, so far I was looking for a replacement for my iPad Pro because this is a little bit too small. So I was thinking about something a little bit bigger, but gives me a similar usage case and just as light. And the Pixelbook seems to be it. So some of you guys may be asking, why not get the 12.9-inch iPad Pro? Well, the 12.9-inch iPad Pro is really expensive, and even the used ones and the last gen ones are still expensive. And plus, I already have an iPad Pro, so I already know kind of what it's like, right? So the 12.9-inch is just going to be a bigger version, but I've already experienced iPad OS. So I wanted to try something new, new and different. So Chrome OS, I've never tried it before, so that's why I got another reason why I got the Pixelbook. And that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and please leave me any comments below.